How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, we are going to be getting into some gameplay breakdown in the Single Type Cup, and it's going to be a fun video, guys, because we're going to talk about fun things like charge move timing and move counts and maximizing your over farming and just really exhilarating topics like that. So before you click away, I know some of you are like, well, heck, I'm out of here. Who's this Nerds Rising character, and why do I want to sit here for 25 minutes and listen to him talk about boring things like that? Well, first of all, if you want to make it to the leaderboards, if you want to hit Legend, you really just have to optimize the little things in your gameplay. I honestly think the difference between an Ace player and a Legend player is not necessarily that Legend players can always just think of these like astounding teams that just guarantee that they're going to win more games than they lose. It's more about the fine details. Can you overfarm the perfect amount to where you're going to outpace your opponent to the next move in the next matchup, type things like that. So I think that is really what separates the Ace players from the Legends, and if you watch this video, you might just learn something from a multi-time Legend who has hit Legend every single season. So let's get into the battles here, guys. I'm going to be slowing them down. We're going to break them down as much as I can. And the team as well, I think the team's fairly strong. I did go up about 125 elo with it. It does have weaknesses. It's not perfect. Definitely one to try out, I think. But, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I do typically use spicy teams. So the truth is there are just better teams than this, but it worked for me. So let's get into the battles here. Excuse me, and let's see what Nerds Rising has in store for you guys today. So first battle, terrible lead, Shadow Kanto Ninetales, and again, Samurott on the safe switch is very strong. Now, Nerds Rising rule of baiting in general is if the move doesn't one-shot, you full send the nuke. Now, if it was a move that the Dragonair knew it had to respect because of the potential one-shot, I may have considered baiting, but I knew Megahorn would not one-shot them, and they knew it, so they actually called the bait, and that is massive for us. So that's my rule. If it doesn't one-shot, I don't bait. I don't bait. I do have to give up a shield, but I take switch advantage, and that is going to be massive because the Shadow Ninetales is actually coming back in here. I see what the opponent's trying to do here. They recognize they've lost switch, so they're in a tough situation. So they're making a call that their Shadow Ninetales may have play in the back. Maybe they're calling that my Samurott was the only answer to this thing. So they actually come in, they double shield, and they farm all the way down. And they now have a ton of energy. So even though I have a Blastoise, I kind of have to respect a potential Solar Beam. So I'm going to shield it up. And it is going to be an overheat, which would have done a massive amount of damage anyway. And now they're going to pivot out into an Umbreon. And here I'm going to make sure that I bank the Hydro Cannon before switching out. I tried to catch. It takes 4 Snarls for an Umbreon to make a foul play. So I switched right as they were getting to their 4th Snarl to potentially catch, but they do overfarm. But now all I have to do here really is just get this Umbreon low. I actually don't want to take it out because I don't want to take it out and then have their Shadow Ninetales come in and farm down like Clefable and then land, say, an overheat or a heavy hitting move on my Blastoise. So I throw the Moonblast here, and now I make the Meteor Match here, but I'm actually not going to throw it. I want them to take me out because now I can come back in with the Blastoise here, farm them down, and then have the Hydro Cannon loaded. And they realize what I was doing and they surrender. So if I, say, take the Umbreon out there with the Clefable, the Ninetales comes in, farms me down, they would actually win CMP on my Blastoise, and I wouldn't even get to use that Hydro Cannon potentially that I banked. So same matchup in the next battle, but this time the opponent brings in a Shadow Machamp. And here, as you guys are seeing, this is going to be our first rewind and pause, because when you're running a one-turn fast move, you always want to throw in the middle of their fast move. So that's 4, 5 counters there, and I throw just as they're getting to their 5th counter. I want to make sure that they have to make the first shielding decision, and they do shield it. And now what you're going to see is the opponent makes a mistake here. They should have thrown their cross chop just before I made my next Hydro, because what the opponent's going to do here is they're just going to double shield and farm me all the way down. But I think it would have been better if they at least force a shield back from me, because now I have a 2-0 shield advantage, and that's a lot more comfortable than a 1-0 shield advantage when you have a Shadow Machamp, because at this point, I don't care about my Clefable. They have a Ninetales in play, so my Clefable is just dead weight to me at this point, so I'm just going to fully sack it here. I do not care if they Rock Slide me here. I'm going to let it go, and they actually baited there, which is massive for me. So I knew that they weren't at the back-to-back, so I try to throw right away. They make a nice play. They catch back onto the Ninetales, but all this does is just lock them into my Blastoise, and now I can just shield once and farm them down. Now, this is probably just going to be a Weather Ball, but I know that I have to maintain some health on my Blastoise. I still don't know what they have in back, and I don't want to no-shield that and then, say, have like a Dragon Breath user come in and just farm me down in the endgame with 2 shields. So I shield up. They're probably not going to be bringing back in that Machamp, and they bring in a Cofagrigus. And here what I know is the Machamp is at 3 counters worth of energy, so they're 2 away from a Cross Chop, and I have to always make sure that I have a Hydro Cannon available before I throw. So I farmed up to the back-to-back there, and now I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back again before I throw, because I know they're going to probably come back in and try to snipe me, and sure enough, they do come back in, but I had energy loaded, and now I'm going to take out the Machamp just before they make a Cross Chop, and since I overfarmed, I'm going to take out the Cofagrigus before they make another move, and that is going to be a good game in Game 2. So 2 lost leads, 2 wins, and as you guys are seeing as well, Samurott in the safe switch is just so good, guys. So next battle, we have another lost lead, a Shadow Muck, and this time I'm going to be bringing in my Samurott again, and we're going to have to see what the opponent decides to do. This time, I actually elect to throw on CMP. Rather than throwing in the middle of their Poison Jab, I throw on CMP. You always want to try to make your opponent make the first shielding decision if you can. And sorry, I have like a hair in my mouth or something. Really classy, I know, but they decided to let that go, so I decided to shield. They bring in a Zangoose, and again, I'm throwing in the middle of their Shadow Claw just as they're getting to the Night Slash. And the opponent makes a very nice play here. He overfarms by 5, and actually CMP ties me. So he's at the back-to-back Night Slashes. I don't shield here, and my rule of thumb, basically, for these situations where it is a CMP tie, so I could shield and get off my move, but the opponent still has a shield, so if I shield, he can just match the shield and then farm me down, and Zangoose just hits so hard. It's really bad to be against a Zangoose with no shield, so I just elect to let my Samurott go here. Very, very nice overfarming by the opponent, and I'm going to bring in the Clefable, but despite the fact that Clefable fully walls Zangoose in terms of charge moves, it just hits so incredibly hard that it's going to be a little bit awkward to take out, because a close combat does huge damage, and a second one's going to get us very low. So what I decided to do here, I'm actually not going to throw my move right away. I want to overfarm, and I want to nearly have a Meteor Mash ready for when that Muck comes back in. So I massively overfarm. I knew I couldn't quite farm down there. They would have made another close combat, so I throw the Meteor Mash, and I should just be 1 away here from the next, and I'm now going to potentially force this last shield off the Muck, and either way, they do let it go. I was going to say, either way, I'm going to be switching into the Blastoise right away, and since I preserved the Clefable here, this is actually not going to be super comfortable for the Cofagrigus. So what the Cofagrigus has to do here is they're going to have to basically come out of this matchup with energy to take out my Clefable, because the Clefable is only like 4 Fairy Winds away from a Meteor Mash. So what they have to do here is they're going to have to Shadow Ball me, and they have to commit to the farm down, because if they throw their next move right away, then I will outpace them in the back. So what you're going to see here is Blastoise is just so thick, guys. The Water Gun 1-turn damage there takes them out. I live on 1 HP, and I overcome another very, very difficult lead loss there. So next battle, we have an Umbreon lead, and this is obviously a very positive lead, but this battle is going to show you what do you do when the opponent brings in something that you don't have a clear response to. So they have a Shadow Muck, and unfortunately, Shadow Muck can just 2-shield its way through my Blastoise if it wants to, but the key thing to note here is this Muck overfarms and allows me to get off my Hydro Cannon first. And I recognize I'm not going to be able to maintain switch, which is really unfortunate, so I decide just to take my shield advantage there. So the Muck definitely should have thrown right away and put the pressure on me to want to shield to make sure I get off my move, but by overfarming, I forced my opponent to make the first shielding decision, and now I can actually save 2 shields for the Samurott, which is going to be huge in this matchup. So they're down a shield now. I'm obviously going to be shielding up this Thunder Punch, and I'm going to make sure that I get my next Hydro off before they make their next move, because I'd like to potentially get their last shield off of them, and that's exactly what happens now. They're probably going to get their move off, force my last shield, but I should outpace them now. So by getting a shield advantage with the Blastoise, I can take out their Muck, and the opponent brings in an Umbreon here, and I overfarm massively. I don't throw the Mega Horn on the Umbreon. I know I need that energy for the backline, and I bring in the Clefable, and I catch after 4 Snarls, which is either a Dark Pulse or a Foul Play. Both are going to be 4 Snarls, and now what I know based on this team read so far, they've got an Umbreon, they have a Poison type, so they have to have another hard answer to Fairy on the lead. So it's either going to be another Poison type or a Fire type, like a Kanto Ninetales potentially. So what I do here is I get this Moonblast off, and I'm actually not going to throw the next move. I had the move, I was committing to the farm down there, but I recognize I need energy on my Samurott. If I take them out with that Meteor Mash, all it does is it lets whatever they have in back come in and farm down my Clefable. So I decide to give Samurott extra energy. I wait to see what comes in. I see the Muck. I make sure the Poison Jab goes through. I throw the Hydro Cannon to make sure they can't catch. And what is going to be in the back? And it is the Ninetales. And now I'm going to make sure I get my move off just in the middle of their Fire Spin there, just as it's registering to maximize my Fury Cutter damage. Because what you're going to see is one Hydro just barely doesn't KO. So if I throw on bad timing there and let them sneak through even one Fire Spin, they would have gotten to the Psyshock and potentially KO'd me there. So very precise mechanics there. Reading the team allows my Samurott to sweep. And in the next battle, we have a neutral matchup. And in neutral matchups, and when you're running an ABB style team, you do kind of have to safe switch out at some point to check for something that hard beats your backline, like a Dragon or a Grass type potentially. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to trade shields with them initially, and they do shield, and now I know that it's 7 Fairy Winds to a Moonblast and 7 Shadow Claws to a Shadow Ball. So I catch the Shadow Ball basically as I'm getting to my Moonblast, and the reason I bring in the Blastoise is because Blastoise in general is just more bulky, so I knew I could tank a Shadow Ball pretty comfortably, and I do draw out a Dragon type, which is perfect. Now, they threw their Breaking Swipe right away after 5 counters, so it's going to be 5 more counters to another Breaking Swipe. So I'm going to come in with the Clefable and throw 4 Fairy Winds here and then get the Meteor Mash off. If I even throw 1 more, I lose CMP to the Haxorus and I get debuffed with the Breaking Swipe. So I don't need to go for the Moonblast. The Haxorus is very, very glassy, and now I'm going to overfarm again just before they get to their move. I believe they're now 1 away from a potential Shadow Ball. And now I'm just going to bring in the Samurott here. I know I'm going to have to give up a shield, but they were going to get to their move anyway on the Clefable. And again, I want to preserve the Clefable in case they have something in back that is potentially going to beat the Samurott. And they do. They have a Greedent in back. So since I preserved the Clefable, I have enough health on it to where I'm going to be able to get to a move against this Greedent. So if you're the Greedent here, let's back this up for a little bit. So I preserve the Clefable. Clefable has enough health to where it's going to get to a move against either the Cofagrigus or the Greedent. And the Cofagrigus is low enough. They just threw their energy where they're going to get farmed down. The Cofagrigus is basically only good for a third shield at this point for the opponent. And since they're going to be switching out here, I know their switch clock's probably not going to come up in time for them to really catch anything. And Greedent is very spammy. It's going to take only 3 bullet seeds to a body slam, and I believe my Clefable is only like 2 or 3 Fairy Winds away from another Meteor Mash. So what this Greedent's going to have to do here is they still have a shield, so they're not in a bad situation here, but they have to basically overfarm to the point where it's only going to take them 1 bullet seed to get to a move against my Clefable when it comes in. So what they have to do here is keep track of my energy and overfarm enough to where they can take me out and then take my Clefable out. And I'm also counting, so I'm keeping track of their bullet seeds. I think they're at like 4 right now. I get my Hydro Cannon off. They know they can tank 1, so they do. And now they're at the back-to-back body slams here. So what they should do here is use their shield on my Hydro and then overfarm massively. But what they do instead is they weren't keeping track of my energy, and they allow themselves to fall into the CMP tie trap. They're forced to shield, but they're also stuck throwing their move. And unfortunately for them, now they're basically stuck throwing this energy. So what they should do here is fully undercharge this and hope that I stay in and let them farm me down, and then they can body slam my Clefable. But I know that they're going to do that. So they do fully undercharge it. Nice play by them, but now I recognize what they're trying to do. I bring in the Clefable, I outpace them to another move, and I'm going to take them out, and then I'm just going to farm them down with Fairy Winds in the back. So the opponent definitely could have won that battle if they would have over-farmed and not fallen into the CMP tie trap. And that's going to be a GG. And I believe we have 2 more battles, guys. So next battle, we have a Lurantis. This is very, very tough for the backline. And it's a pretty nice matchup for Clefable in the matter that we are resisting the Fury Cutters, but this thing hits pretty hard, and it definitely outpaces us as well. So we can tank 1. I let the first go, and I overfarm, trying to not let them catch, but they still catch on a Hypno. So Hypno, the counts on Hypno are going to be 4 confusions to the first punch and 3 to the second. And I know that Blastoise, again, can tank moves a lot better than Samurott. So I'm going to let the first go. I know I can tank 1 Thunder Punch from a non-Shadow Hypno, and they're actually on Ice Punch. So to avoid taking any more damage, I'm going to overfarm and throw just before they make their next punch in the middle of their confusion. And I'm going to take this out here. They don't shield, which is nice. But since I overfarm there, I now have a ton of residual energy. And you're going to see me make a little bit of a mistake here when this Lurantis comes back in. So Lurantis did bank a bunch of energy when they caught on the Clefable. So they're already at a Leaf Blade. And I'm not running Ice Beam, but what I should do here is commit to a potential fake Ice Beam and overfarm past the Hydro, because what that will do is it'll force the opponent to dump all their energy right away, not wanting to potentially have to shield an Ice Beam. So what I do instead is I settle for the Hydro right away. I was wanting to get some guaranteed damage off, but all this is going to do is allow them to no shield it, knowing it's not enough for an Ice Beam, and it's going to let them massively overfarm to like nearly 3 Leaf Blades here, which is really, really rough. So they're going to take me out here, and they're going to outpace my Clefable, unfortunately, to the next Leaf Blade as well. And I'm recognizing right here that I think I can live this Clefable. I think my Clefable can live this Leaf Blade, just barely. I have a very high ranked Clefable. It's like a rank 3, I think. But I know that they're probably going to be wanting to bring in their third and snipe me right away. So as soon as they throw this Leaf Blade, I'm immediately going to be bringing in the Samurott to avoid the switch. To avoid the snipe, excuse me, and I bank the Meteor Mash on the Clefable. The opponent did exactly what I thought they were going to do. They bring in their Ninetales, they try to snipe, but I'm fast enough. I get out of there, I bank that Meteor Mash, and banking that Meteor Mash, what you guys are going to see, is actually going to be what wins me this battle, because despite the fact that we're a Water type into a Fire type, their Shadow Embers are just shredding our poor Samurott, and they have 2 shields, so I'm not doing any fast move damage to them whatsoever. So I'm going to have to land 3 Hydro Cannons here to KO this thing, and they're actually going to make 2 Weather Balls before I do so, and a Shadow Weather Ball would still do a lot on Samurott, so I have to give up both shields. And I am going to get to the next Hydro here, and I don't overfarm there because I want to make sure that I have enough health to where my Fury Cutters are going to pressure this Lurantis to throw right away. And yeah, they don't want to take any Fury Cutter damage. They throw right away. And since I got out of there in time with the Clefable, I survive on like 1 or 2 HP, and I have the Meteor Mash banked, and I take out the Lurantis there. So very, very close battle there. And I believe in the last battle, I'm going to be showing you guys some pretty precise move timing mechanics. So before we even start this battle, I'm taking a drink of water because it's like 2:30 in the morning, and I am just exhausted. So in this battle, what you're going to be paying attention to is charge move timing. We know Dubwool has a 3-turn move, and that is Double Kick. And Clefable is on a 2-turn move, which is Fairy Wind. So when you are going up against a 3-turn move and your 2-turn move, you want to throw after 1 Fairy Wind, which is 2 turns into their 3. And in doing so, you only allow 1 free turn of energy as you're throwing your charge move. Now, same thing with 4. That's 8 turns to their 9, and that only allows 1 free turn of energy as you're throwing your charge move. So you're going to be seeing this in play And the only time that you don't do that is when you know you're going to get outpaced to a move if you throw on correct timing. And you're going to see that come into play as well. So now obviously we can't throw at 4 because we don't even get to a move in 4. So they're going to throw right away after 3 double kicks. So they're going to be energy dry after this. And what I can do is either I can throw 1 or I can throw 4. So I'm going to throw 4. And that's going to basically make my Meteor Mash register right in the middle of their last double kick. So they now have the energy for the Body Slam, and they correctly throw 1 double kick and then the move for their proper timing. So I know now that they are 2 away from the next. So if I try to throw after 4, then I know that I will actually get outpaced because they're only 6 turns away from their next Body Slam. But if I throw at 4, it's going to be 8 turns. So I have to throw at 3 here, which normally isn't going to be a good timing. But I know that this is going to be a CMP tie now. And I know that Clefable actually wins CMP against Dubwool. So I'm going to throw after 3 Fairy Winds now and force a CMP tie. And it's always good to try to force CMP ties when you win CMP to force your opponent to make the first shielding decision. So I force a shielding decision out of them. They actually elect to shield the Meteor Mash, and now I'm actually going to save my Clefable, calling that they're going to be weak to it in the back. So I was thinking maybe they had an Umbreon at this point, so I bring in my safe switch just in case they had like a Meganium or a Grass type in the back. I want to draw it out, and I do get my Hydro Cannon off here, and I believe they are now... I think I threw at suboptimal timing with the Fury Cutters and let a double kick through, so I think they're only 2 away here, so they will outpace me. But they're now going to have to switch out after this Body Slam. Otherwise, I will Fury Cutter them all the way down. So we'll have to see what they decide to come in with here, and they bring in a Vigoroth. And here I'm counting. This is 4 counters, 5 counters, and I recognized I wasn't going to make 2 Hydros before I get farmed down. So I settle for the Mega Horn. 1 Mega Horn will do more. And here, guys, what you're going to see me do is make a catch. There's not really any specific thing I do for catching. Everybody throws at different times, but in general, most people, when you switch something in, they do 1 or 2 fast moves before they throw their move, just to make sure that you're not trying to catch. So I typically, as a rule of thumb, will wait 2 fast moves to try to catch. Obviously, it varies. Sometimes people throw right away, sometimes they don't. I know this Vigoroth is at 6 counters right now, so what I'm going to try to do is bring in my Blastoise and try to make a catch at some point on this Vigoroth here. So he's at 6 counters. I have the Blastoise. It's going to be coming in. Blastoise is very tanky, so I know it could probably farm down and take 2 Body Slams, but I don't want to do that. So it's 7, 8 counters. And again, like you saw there, I wait for 2 counters just to make sure he thinks he's safe. And at the last second there, when he thinks he's safe is when I strike, and I do make the catch. And now the opponent's only going to get 1 Body Slam off on my Blastoise instead of 2. And that catch actually is going to be the game-winning catch there. They have a Muckin back. I will outpace the 2 Hydros, and I knew that they were going to try to make a catch of their own. So I just massively overfarmed there, guys. And basically, when you're in a situation where you have a 1-turn move, as long as you throw in between their fast moves, you can't have your move caught. It's impossible. So what I was doing there, I was just waiting for their Poison Jab to go through, and I was just going to throw my charge move in the middle of their Poison Jab to guarantee that they couldn't catch. So I'm over farming. Obviously, I rewind too much, but that's fine. So you're going to see me just over farm massively here and make sure not to throw until I see a Poison Jab coming through. And yeah, they tried to catch. They had to. They don't get the catch, and now 2 Hydros is going to KO this Muck, and that's going to be a good game. So charge move timing, very, very difficult to grasp. Honestly, at some point, I'm just going to make an entire video on charge move timing alone. But in general, the goal of charge move timing is to basically minimize the amount of free energy your opponent gets while you're throwing a charge move. If you just mash the charge move button right away, as soon as you get it every time, then you're going to probably allow a lot of extra energy to sneak through as you're throwing your charge move from the opponent. So just little tips to help you guys get better. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sure this is not everyone's favorite. Honestly, it's not even my favorite to record just because it's kind of boring, but hopefully somebody learned something today. And yeah, we're definitely not going to be doing this every time, but let me know in the comments what you guys thought. Make sure you leave a like. likes really do help the YouTube algorithm push the videos out to more viewers. But that being said, guys, let's end the video. It's been 25 minutes of slowness, so yeah, if you're new to the channel, if you appreciate this video, make sure you subscribe, because the more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.